Welcome back to the final segment of the show this morning, or rather the final interview. I'm talking with Maulana Mohammed Ashraf Patel. We're looking at the importance of Islamic guidance in business, and I think what we're also going to raise on the show this morning is the issue of halal and haram. I think we take it very literally. We take it only at the surface. We walk into a supermarket and try and make absolutely certain that what we are buying is halal. We look for the halal certification, and yes, it's important, but I think halal goes way, way beyond that. But Maulana Patel is going to outline all of that for us on the show this morning. Assalamu alaikum, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure entirely, because we're discussing, we as Muslims, we as born Muslims take this issue for granted.
Yes.
Because the assumption is that I'm a born Muslim, I'm going to be brought up with strict guidelines of halal and haram and Islamic guidance in every aspect of my life. Sadly, somewhere along the line, we kind of fall away, we are sidetracked, and to make ourselves feel good or feel righteous about our actions, our misdirected actions, we rationalize that the principles are very archaic, they're outdated, they don't apply to these modern times.
You see, it all starts from a couple of generations before, where the importance of sending your kids to madrasa, which is the maktab system, has gained less and less importance, and they've raised more and more importance towards secular studies such as universities, school, and so on, which is totally incorrect. We as Muslims, we are guided by the Quran and the Sunnah, whereby Allah Ta'ala has actually instructed us on how to do business and what is halal, what is haram, how to live our life. The Quran and the Sunnah is actually a life manual, and there's no other religion which actually gives you a life manual. So basically, if you follow the Quran and the Sunnah, it actually tells you A to Z on how to live your life. Just like how when you have a washing machine and you install a washing machine at home and you don't look at the user manual, you're going to try and figure out how to use this machine. You're going to put some cotton in there, and then you're going to try and wash polyester. It just won't work. It's going to damage your clothing. And you're going to put extra soap or little soap, whatever. You need to read the manual. Similarly with Islam, alhamdulillah, Islam is... Those who are within the fold of Islam have the facility to read the Quran and the Sunnah, also have access to other ulama who can actually guide them spiritually as well as physically, in order for them to be able to do anything in their lives, how they must get married, what they must eat, what food, how they must dress, exercising, A to Z is actually there. So we should be looking more towards the Quran and Sunnah for that. Now the maktab system, if you send your kids to the maktab from the beginning, and you ensure that just like how you want them to finish matric, they should actually go to the maktab system and finish up to class 10 or higher, you will notice that you're actually giving them life skills, because in the maktab system they will be taught A to Z on how to run their lives. Those who will run through to class 10 will be more successful in their lives, because they have been taught from the Quran and Sunnah, which is from Allah Ta'ala and Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, on how to actually live their lives. Once they are out there after class 10, which I think is definition around the age of 16 or so, they will be more, they'll have the tools and they'll be more ready in order to take on the world, to take on life, we actually just posted something before I came onto the show on my Instagram that what is the difference between school and life? In school, you are taught a lesson and then taken a test on it. And in life, you are tested, which teaches you a lesson. Absolutely. So this is very, very important. Now, the thing is that a lot of us, because we don't have this guidance and we don't follow the Quran and the Sunnah, we are taught... We actually pay very high school fees on the mistakes that we make, especially when it gets through to business and so on, because this talks a little bit about business. So once you have been taught in madrasa or in maktab on how to operate and how to improve your akhlaq, that alone is the first step on how to basically operate yourself in business. Because remember one thing, in business, first and foremost, you have staff members. And if you do not have good akhlaq, and you're going to go and start shouting and swearing at the staff members, which is not what Muslims do. In fact, there's so many ahadith that tells you on how to treat staff. Even one where you've got to pay your staff before his sweat dries. Now, in today's time, is not the way that people are doing. As a result, the staff turnaround turns a lot, and you have new staff all the time. And because you have new staff all the time, you have an unstable business, and that alone basically gives you the first problem. Before you even get to halal and haram, the first problem is that you have an unstable business.
What worries me about what you're sharing with me now is I'm a born Muslim.
Yes.
I know all of this, and I have no doubt in my mind that every other Muslim watching us this morning know all of this. Why are we not practicing it? Why are we making people miserable? Why is it that when we have people in our employ, we dehumanize them by insulting them, making them feel that we're doing them a favor by having them in our employ, and we lord it over them. We want to be treated like kings and queens. We want them to be subservient to us. We treat them so inhumanely, and then we still put our head on that musalla 5 times a day and go to bed at night thinking that I'm a good Muslim.
You see, this whole world, any religion, there's a huge fight between good and evil. And no matter how much good you have, you'll have evil coming at you harder. So the person who is doing a lot of good, he's going to be actually enticed to go on to evil as much as possible. As a result of that, then the person, a Muslim itself, has to ensure, and it also says in the Quran and Hadith, that stay with the pious, remain with the pious. Around you have people who are pious. Why? Because the same pious people will be able to give you guidance, and a spiritual guidance, not only a physical guidance, but a spiritual guidance in order for you to improve your iman, to strengthen your iman. So the stronger you have your iman, this point is you're going up and down 5 times a day, but if you have no sincerity in it, you see, when you go to the masjid, for example, and you're praying your salah, it could be for show. It could be for whatever it is. But the things that if deep inside you, you have good people around you who are giving you the good guidance and spiritually uplifting you all the time by you attending talks and by you reading your zikr and your Quran Sharif in the mornings and things like that, because they will entice you to do that, they will motivate you to do that. So basically what happens is that then your fear of Allah will grow and your iman will get stronger. When your iman gets stronger, then you're going to, before you even shout at a staff member, you're going to think, you know what, Allah Ta'ala will be upset if I do that. Let me just approach it in a different way. Or if somebody comes through and say, you know what, I got this at half the price because of this and this and that. So you're going to say, well, you know what, I'm sorry, I'm not interested, go away. But the thing is that if you don't fear Allah, and if you don't feel that Allah is seeing what you're doing and your actions and are being written on your shoulders, you will take it. But if you have the fear of Allah, then you're not going to take it. So the spiritual upliftment is extremely important, not just actions, but you have to have sincerity in it.
What are we doing wrong in our business practices, apart from treating, which is a big thing? It's number 1 on our list of don't do's. Apart from treating our staff very badly, very poorly, underpaying them, insulting them, threatening them, making the work environment so unpleasant that if the people if they'd had any other way, they wouldn't come to this workplace, because it is such a toxic environment for them to be in.
You know, your invitation towards the show came in at such a time that there's so many of these questions being asked at me at the moment. In fact, just on Monday, I received a WhatsApp message, and I think it went viral as well, that there was a story about Maulana Yunus Patel when his father-in-law went for Hajj, and he asked him, Maulana, please look after my shop. And, his father-in-law went for a couple of months, I think 4 months or something like that. And basically what happened is that the neighbors were all seeing that this shop is, every time it's closing during Salah times and is opening up a bit later, etc., etc. And in fact, when some people came through, one customer came through and she purchased some items for about 10 Rand or so, and they came to Maulana, and Maulana, they seen she was short. So Maulana looked at her and said, you know what, this seems to be a needy person. And Maulana actually told her, you know what, take the goods and take your 10 rand also and go, you know. So it's like sort of a charity. So when his father-in-law came down, there's quite a few other instances in it, but I'll keep it short. When his father-in-law came back, the neighbors and the friends said, you know what, your shop, you might just as well close it down, because when you weren't away, the shop was never opened, etc., etc. So when they sat down and did the books, the business actually went up by 30%. And not even come down, it went up by 30%,
right.
Because you see, Allah Ta'ala is the sole provider of risk. And the more good you do in the business, the more actually Allah Ta'ala will provide you. And that's what people don't understand. You know, when the time comes to pay zakat, they see it as a tax. It's not a tax, it's to cleanse your earnings. So basically, the more, if you're going to be paying your zakat timelessly and properly, you'll actually see the barakat in the business. I'm not saying you're going to be making more money, but whatever money you're making, it will stretch so much further, because your income is now purified. You see, it's all about the spirituality in it. And Allah Ta'ala is telling you, listen, pay your zakat, do your business the right way, don't sell stolen goods, or don't go into doubtful things, etc., etc. Even a simple thing like interest and things like that, you know, why go into it? I mean, nowadays, look, obviously the businessman should consult the local imam or the spiritual guide on how to handle that side. But there are so many Islamic banks whereby they don't touch interest at all, they don't give you the interest or whatever it is, they charge you a fixed fee, whatever the packages are. But there are many ways today to keep your business Islamically guided. And there are people who are out there, especially the ulama who are business inclined. They will be able to give you the right guidance onto that and how to do it. And even if they don't, nowadays with WhatsApp, and we've built networks whereby if somebody comes to ask me a question and I'm not familiar with it, I'll just ask in our ulama group, and I'll get so many responses, and even books where to read and so on. I'll do my research and I'll respond. So the guides are there. We just need to make sure that we are spiritually walking the right line and not going out, not chasing money.
Okay, let's go for an ad break. We'll talk some more right after. Maulana Ashraf Patel is my guest. We're talking about keeping your business, obviously running a business under strict Islamic guidance, inshallah. And after the ad break, we're going to talk about issues around halal and haram, and importantly, family relations. How, if you don't upkeep respectful family relationships, it's not only going to impact your immediate family, but how it impacts the entire community. So stay with us. Maulana Muhammad Ashraf Patel is my guest. We started out by talking about proper Islamic guidance in your business, but off air we were just talking about proper Islamic guidance in your life, in your family, in your homes, in your community. If you get it right, like Maulana had started out by suggesting that we put strong emphasis on our children attending madrasa till grade 10 or grade 12, I'm not quite sure what it is these days. If we give them that strong Islamic backing, just imagine what a well-rounded youngster you'll have in your family. And if we too carry out those principles in our homes, we won't have to be here talking about Islamic guidance in our businesses, because everything we do will be Islamic correct.
That's correct, yes. So
when I think about the issues around, you know what comes to mind when I've, after that statement,
yes,
is selective Islam.
Yes.
Aren't we all guilty of it?
Yes. You see, the world today is such that we have the internet. And in the internet, we have access to a lot more information than what we had in the past. We have YouTube, we have WhatsApp. Sometimes you're in a hadith group, and every day you'll get a hadith, and you'll read this hadith if you get a chance, or you will sit down and see so many people on YouTube that are giving lectures and so on. The problem that we face is that there are so many of it today that you don't know who to listen to and who not, because there's many interpretations on the ahadith and so on, which has been happening from the days of tabi'in, sahaba and so on. And that's why we have the 4 madhaib. Now, if you're going to be listening to someone on YouTube, it's a one-way information. It's not a two-way information. For example, you're listening to this one alim speaking to you on YouTube, and he's giving his lecture and he's giving his point of view. Now,
so you can't question.
You can't question, because now you might have a bit of doubt or question. Oh, you know what? You didn't really understand this properly. What is it about, and so on. So you can't really question. So although it's very useful to have this type of information, but it's very, very important. The masjid in the community is a center of your Islam. Everything happens in that masjid. So you need to link yourself up to one of those masjids. Your husband goes there on a daily basis, 5 times a day. There's 1 imam, 2 imam, however many people there are. There usually will be a group of other ulama that also attend to that masjid. So there's always people available there. So should you have any questions and so on. So say, for example, you are unclear about something to do with traveling. And instead of you going onto the internet and Googling it, and you listen to one point of view of it, which may not even be your madhaib. You rather go to your nearest masjid, or nowadays you have these community groups on WhatsApp. Just ask the Maulana, I need this, I need so-and-so's number. They'll call you, you call them, and just rather ask one-to-one. If you ask one-to-one, you will have the right information, because that community you're in will more than likely be the community of the madhaib that you follow.
Absolutely, but you're not saying stop watching and listening to these lectures. Perhaps you can engage, you can actually watch those. Inshallah will, give you clarity on certain issues.
Yes.
Maybe also hook you further into the deen.
Yes.
But with any issues, and I hear what you're saying, the sad thing is that it's not two-way.
Yes.
But any questions you may have, jot them down, take them to your local masajid, ask questions. You may have friends who are very dini orientated, but ask. Don't walk around with misconceptions
100%,
in your head.
100%. You see, the person who you listen to as well, it has to be very selective, because you mentioned now about selective deen, you see. Now, say for example, you have one Mufti Sahib who you listen to every time on YouTube. Before you go further with this Mufti, say if it's somebody new, you rather just ask your local Imam, look, you've come across this person on YouTube, he's got 500 videos, can I watch him? So this Ali will probably know this person or do some research on it to make sure that he follows the same Aqidah as you, the same madhab as you, and so on. And he will tell you, yeah, sure, no problem, listen to him, he's all good. But there are many different types of Aqidas, and they might even be enemies of Islam who guide. The shaitan basically disguises himself, and then he starts sending you wrong information. And now, because he's sending you information in a way that you enjoy watching him, or maybe he's a handsome guy, or maybe he's doing things in a different way, whatever, you can't say. Now you're attracted to his lectures, and you're listening to him. In the meantime, he's not the right person to be giving you the guide.
You're making a very relevant point, and it's very, very worrisome, because we've got young people that are really hooked to the net. I mean, it's the fourth industrial revolution.
Right.
This is the way we're sourcing information.
Yes.
What is it that you want to tell the parents these days? How do we monitor? Because there's no doubt in my mind that our children, and even us for that matter, are consuming information from questionable sources. Yes. How do we verify?
This show, this invitation came really at a good time, because just last night I was at a community meeting, the drug community meeting. And we now went in because we're doing some research for the Jummah Bayan coming up with awareness of drug awareness and so on. And I'm sitting there and I'm listening to these people talking about so and so, he's in remission and so on and so on. And then there's a lady there who comes regularly because everyone seems to know her, and she's not there because her son is on drugs. She's there because her son is addicted to his phone. And they're actually giving advice on how to get him not addicted to his phone. So in the first place, we need to realize that, yes, a phone is very important. And if your child does not have access to the phone that you've given him, he will have access to it, to his friend's phone or wherever. He will definitely get access. But the first thing we need to do is that we need to ensure that we know, because that phone has got a lot of information on it, and no matter what apps you've added on that controls parental guidance, it helps to a certain level, but these kids, they know more than you on how to bypass
Absolutely.
it. So you need to ensure that you start giving him access to phones at the right age. That's the first thing. I'm not a child expert, so I can't tell you what age. In fact, you will know your child better. But you need to introduce the phone to the child at the right age as the first thing. And secondly, it's your job as a parent to actually teach the child responsibility and how to use the phone and who to listen to, and so on and so on. In today's time, you have strangers who are enticing the kids to come out, they get abducted or whatever it may be. But worse comes to worse, they actually get brainwashed, and there's not something that you want. So it's very important that Islamically, once again, get yourself attached to the masjid. And if your son is getting older, in the hadith it says, in Islam it says, when he gets to a certain age, start taking him to the masjid and so on. So once you start getting his time occupied with Islamic related salah and Quran and so on, then that desire to be on the phone will just get less and less and less. And that doesn't only go for the phone, but also with TV games. Today, TV games are all connected to the internet. People are talking to each other and so on. So don't think that he's just sitting there playing TV games. He's talking to 100 other people, of which you just have to have one person who brainwashes him, and that's it.
We've got 2 minutes to wrap up. There was so much more that I wanted to talk to you about, the issue around halal and haram, the issue about fitna, the issue about breakdown in family relationships because of jealousy. Yes. But inshallah, we'll talk about it next time. Inshallah. But in closing, can you summarize what we've talked about and a very important take-home message for all our viewers?
Sure. There is the dunya. Definitely, Allah Ta'ala says that for the Muslims, the dunya is a jail. For the non-believer, the dunya is paradise. So we're not saying don't live in a dunya. We're saying live in a dunya, but attach yourself to your deen. Make sure that your kids finish their education in Islam in order to make them better people so that they can manage their lives, themselves, their businesses, etc. in a more Islamic manner. Inshallah, that will definitely bring them success.
And if you have a sound home environment, inshallah, then your business, whether it's a one-man operation or a 20-man operation, all of those ethical values, Islamic values like trust, like 100%. You said, akhlaq, respect, dignity, ethics, etc. If that is well in place in a Muslim home, you'll take it wherever you go to.
Definitely.
In the business, in your workplace, in your travels, in your interactions with every human being you come into contact with.
That's correct, yes.
Maulana, shukran for being with us. Remember us in your du'as. Till the next time. Wassalam. And there you have it, Maulana Ashraf Patel talking to us about Islamic guidance in your business, but I say right from the cradle, inshallah, to your grave. If you've got the right Islamic foundation, then alhamdulillah, you'll be an absolute pleasure to everybody who comes in contact with you throughout your life. On that note then, time for us to wrap up. Thank you for being with us. To the production team, thank you for the support. Take care on the roads. As always, it is Khuda Hafiz from me, Julie Ali.